Hello. Uh, Thank you very much, guys, for joining in for today's session. And I am assuming that you guys are able to hear us properly, and you guys are able to see the screen also properly. Can you guys confirm on the chat? Yeah, I am assuming that you guys are able to hear us properly and see us properly. Can you guys please confirm on chat? Okay, okay, great. Great. I'm assuming that all of you guys are able to see and hear us properly. So we'll start out with today's session. Okay. So the today's session is primarily what we have done is with respect to a career conversation that we plan to initiate with respect to the audience that we have students or working professionals, and if they do not generally have the understanding about what all different career options which are available in finance. And that is the reason we generally try to keep sessions wherein we ask somebody from the industry to come in and help us and guide us to give us a better understanding about the roles and what are the skill set that are there for the that are required to be in a particular domain or be a particular role, and how a student or somebody who is new in finance can join in. Okay, so that is the basic purpose of this entire presentation. And today we have Mr. Giriraj Daga, who's already completed CFA and FRM. He's already been in the industry in treasury team for last 14 years now, and he is handling FX desk for a big organization in Mumbai. And today he's going to be sharing with us the way treasury works, what are the major teams, how the treasury team, the desk operates, and his experience, his point of view of looking at things, and how somebody can shape up his career in treasury. That is the main agenda of today's discussion. So I'll hand over to Giriraj sir for a quick overview about his career, so that you get a fair idea about him also before we start the session. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Ganesh. Uh, Thanks, Ganesh, for providing this opportunity. Okay, fine. So you see, before I start off, uh, this has been I've been associated with Ganesh for the last, I think, 2 3 years. I did my FRM under his guidance, so in a way he's my guru, and I'm trying to just repay my guru. So that's my first comment. Okay, fine. You see, I have been in the FX domain for the last 14 years, so in the treasury for the last 14 years, and I've got another 6 years experience in general banking. So totally, I've got 20 years work in banking per se. So initial, how you can divide it into two half. One half was with the PSU bank, and second half with a good private sector bank, Axis Bank. So in my earlier half of my experience, 4 years I was in general banking, where, as you know, the probationary officer has to uh, learn all the domains, move around. So that was my basic role. And I got an opportunity to move into State Bank of Travancore's treasury, which was one of the subsidiaries of SBI. Luckily, since it was a very small setup, I was able to have a very good overview of the entire domain of treasury, which I'll be taking you through in this session. Then I got an opportunity to move into Axis. So in Axis, I've been working as a trader, specifically as a forex trader in dollar rupee pair, which I will also take you through during this session. In the last 9 years, I have handled prop desk and the floor desk also. And obviously, 14 years as a trader has given me a great insight in how markets move, uh, how things happen in treasury, whereas a bank we stand, whereas an individual I stand, and whereas a country India stands. So all this and plus, as today's focus is how can you gain from my insights if you want to make a career in banks, treasury specifically, this will be my focus. And specific focus will be in Indian banks or rather private sector Indian banks. How does it function? How can you get in? How can you move around if you get a chance to get in? This all will be my major focus area. Now, yeah, in between, I did do my FRM as I told you. I just completed last year, and earlier I did my CFA. Obviously, CFA is not the institute one. I did the IPFI one. That was long back, but obviously at that time that also had a great value. Now obviously things are different. So okay, Ganesh, I think you can take over.
Okay, thank you very much, sir, for this wonderful introduction. So we'll quickly walk towards the agenda that we are going to be the flow of the session. So first, we're going to be talking about the structure within Treasury. That means the primary teams, major teams that we have on a general Treasury team that we see across different banks. And within that structure, we'll primarily focus upon three, four major desks. The first being the interest rate desk, okay, and we're going to be talking about that, and we'll also be talking about FX desk, which Giriraj sir manages, and then we'll also be talking about briefly on the equity and the commodity desk, what they do, what are the ways they are doing trades, how do they manage risk. Okay, then there are other smaller teams within Treasury. Okay, so financial market group, money market funding group. So these kind of teams will be talked over here, and then we'll move towards some general stuff, which wherein Giriraj sir will help us to understand what is the compensation, general compensation that we see in the Treasury, what is the general hierarchy that is followed within bank, then some skill set that will help you guys to understand how you can grow and grow within the treasury team, and what do treasury team actually requires you to have. Okay, and finally some quick tips from the sir himself, and we'll then open up for queries, which will be taking your directly queries. But in case you still have any specific queries, you can put it on chat. We'll try to cover it between the slides wherever possible, but the major queries will be resolved at the end. Okay, so with this, I'll hand over the presentation to Giriraj sir.
Okay, thank you, Ganesh. So, as I told you, my main focus will be entirely on the Indian setup and specifically on the banks. So, per se, treasury, as you can decipher, is a treasure. So, obviously, when it's a treasure for a bank or for any institution, treasury, you can call it as the main focus area of the management. Management has a specific focus, basically because treasury per se handles major chunk of the money which the bank or any institute has, and since a major chunk is handled with only a few set of professionals, obviously there is more focus, there is more risk, and obviously there are more rewards also. Indian banks per se, and even in private sector banks per se, they have a very broad-based treasury, and depending on the sizes and size of the bank, and depending on the risk appetite of the banks has a different setup. So what I'm trying to tell you today is more or less what happens in a mid-sized private sector bank or even a large-sized private sector bank. And there are many divisions or main desks which might not be there in few banks, or there may be extra desks which might be there in few banks depending on the focus of the bank, depending on the market appetite, market scenario, etc., etc. Okay, fine. So basically, if you see what the treasury does is it basically handles the money of the bank, right? You have money flow, you have currency flow for the bank, or for by RBI. So every bank or every setup has a treasury. This money flow is basically what you lend and what you where your inflow is and where your outflow is. So whenever you talk about inflow and outflow, so obviously for a bank, inflow majorly comes from deposits and some other stuff like raising funds, capital, etc. And outflow, major chunk of the outflow happens by way of lending. But even whenever there is a, say, if there's a possibility of, say, now in this COVID scenario, or whenever you feel that, okay, fine, market is not, there is not risk appetite for credit to offtake, a major chunk of the money is pushed into investment. Okay, so that is what basically Treasury does. Treasury per se manages the flow of the bank. It decides at what rate we can borrow, at what rate we can lend, and what rate. Other than this, there are many other factors. Say now in India, there is SRR, CRR requirements are there, SLR requirements are there. So all these part is being basically handled by Treasury. So being a niche area, being an area where large amount of money is invested, and management also sees that a large amount of frontline capital is involved, and obviously a major chunk of profit center is Treasury. Always it has remained a focus area of bank. So any bank, even if it's a small sector bank, it will have a Treasury. Obviously inside Treasury, what are the different setups are there? That might be different. Say a smaller bank might not have may not have an equity desk at all. They may not have a commodity desk. Many banks don't have a commodity desk as such. There are banks who even don't have FX trading desk. But majorly all banks need to have debt desk or a desk which handles the INR part. So that is more or less what we call as the interest rate desk. Okay, so what is the interest rate desk, or what is a debt desk does for the bank is it handles, say, the SLR portion. So whichever say what are the regulatory requirements. As I told, a major part of the funds is need to be deployed in government debt, in government bonds. So that chunk is basically handled by interest rate desk. Then FX desk, as you are more or I think you are more or less will be aware. So all trading in all different pairs, customer flows, all is this handled. I will take you all those things detailed through this session. Equity desk, I think everybody will be aware. You must have made investments. So bank does obviously in a bigger fashion. Commodity desk, from a bank perspective, it's very limited scope is there from commodity desk, because as per regulations, only right now you're allowed only to handle bullion or trade in bullion. But there are talks of liberalizing further. Balance sheet management group is again the entire gamut of ALM is handled by balance sheet management group. As I told you, obviously, which part of funds, what part of funds should be deployed where, what is a NIM, what is a RAROC, on what basis my capital has been raised, and where I can invest. As you would have seen, or maybe you're going to study in the credit risk side, liquidity side, risk. All these are basically handled by the balance sheet management group, and it is one of the major group where management has got a very big say, because major chunk of the funds get involved over there. Money market and funding group is basically as conveyed, it's a CRR maintenance. The INR inflow and outflow, whichever it's happens is being handled by the money market and funding group. And financial market groups is basically a relationship part of the treasury, where the treasury guys, wherever there's a scope for the bank to get involved from other institutions, major institutions, as ex-convict, bank, insurance, all these are majorly covered. So these are the major structure of the treasury. Obviously, in Indian setup, this is what happens. But in major setups like in foreign banks, these all have a very wide groups are there, set up across various geographies, various centers. And say in India, if you have say the largest treasury, personal wise is in State Bank of India, where you may say max to max 100 guys on the trading floor. But say if you are looking at the likes of JP Morgan or say cities, you have guys like 400, 500 just sitting in one floors, handling one part of say FX trading or interest trading. So it's a very huge market, very big market, and very exciting market. I've been there for last 14 years. Obviously, I've enjoyed all this stuff. Okay, Ganesh, let's take it further. So let me start with interest rate desk. You see, my domain basically has been the FX side, but why I am taking through the interest rate desk is because it is, as you are aware or might be learning over the period of time. See, this is one of the major chunk of the treasury. So debt, see, without FX, any bank or any institution can survive. Because if I decide to, okay, I don't want to handle any export import of the client, I don't want to participate in the FX market, I want to stay away. Yes, it is possible because there is no regulation or nothing says that okay, you have to be involved in the FX side. It's a call you take, a management takes. Okay, we need to have an FX desk to service clients or to make money out of proprietary desk and all. But interest rate desk is or the debt desk, which I will call, is what I can tell is one of the regulation is very clear. You need to manage funds, and to manage funds, you need to necessarily have this desk. Since you necessarily need to have this desk, obviously all banks across geographies, across structure, even if you have a payment bank, as you have a small payment banks, they also need to have a treasury to handle the inflow and outflow of specifically INR. Okay, so in rate desk, so broadly, you have the interest rate desk, which handles the say the bonds and all. It may be a GSEC bond, it may be corporate bond. So I'm just talking about broadly only. And in Indian context, we also have rate desk also handles the primary dealers, the PD, which is known as the PD. So what does the PD do? Maybe interest rate desk, one of you guys will be aware. But what does the PD do? PD basically handles the issuance of the government. So say government wants to issue some bonds, it wants to raise some funds. So PD basically are, you can call it as a type of brokers. Okay, so my job basically as a PD will be, okay, I'm telling, okay, so government, say government wants to raise, say now government is in a funds raising mode. So say government decides, okay, I want this big on, I want to raise 40,000 crores. So 40,000 crores, it's not this easier to raise money, right? So because there are so many things involved. So what they do, primary PDs, they tell to the government, okay, I will take 5,000 of this chunk. And then after those 5,000, the PD may decide, okay, I will take a part of in my books, and I can, part of this I will offload to say other clients, say to insurance companies, which is basically the relationship part which comes here. So for in case I'm not able to do this, the entire 5,000 crore will devolve to me. So you would if you're going to this finance news, you might have heard that sometimes a devolvement happens. So what is the devolvement happens? Devolvement is the RBI deciding to, okay, the say certain part of the portion is not subscribed by the institution or by the banks, it devolves to the PD, who then has to handle this, and after a certain period of time, they have to offload in the market. So basically, I'm acting as a broker, I'm acting as a middleman, obviously for a fee, wherein I tell you, okay, as a bank, I will handle this portion, and out of this PD, some portion I may keep it for on my books, and some portion I may offload for the money. So PD is not major function per se, but why I am focusing on PD is, say, if you enter into a treasury, into a bank treasury, PD is not just handled by banks, PD are handled by other institutions also, other brokerages houses also. So, say if you enter into a bank, if you have good, decent experience in interest rate desk, you have got a good hold of that. So, because banks per se in India are limited, you've got only limited banks, PSU don't offer, obviously monetary-wise they don't offer that much charm. And if you're in a PSU bank, obviously I just forgot to tell you why I moved out from PSU to the private sector. I will just take a break here. So one of the main reason why I moved out of the PSU to, obviously was the compensation part. Obviously there's a decent difference between both. But other than the difference, the major reason why I moved out was basically there you need to work 3 years on a desk, and after working for 3 years, you have to necessarily move out. So there was a relaxation in my case where they allowed me to work for 6 years, and there are been relaxations happening where they let the guys to work on a desk for 6 years, in treasury for 6 years or more for 1 or 2 years. But after a certain period of time, you necessarily have to move out. So in my case, I was told, okay, I was doing well in that limited setup. So within say 6 years, I was told, okay, your next goal is you have to move to a agri branch. So I have to go and handle agri loans. So obviously, matlab, having this expertise in the FX market, in the domain of treasury, moving out entirely to agriculture didn't suit me. And obviously, I got a chance in Axis, and I just moved on. So these are the major constraints. So PSU banks, obviously, unless you need a very safe job, unless you are excited in moving around, which I didn't like. Obviously, in this 10 years of my experience, I moved around nearly, I think, 6-7 times. So these are the, you guys will be aware of all this. So basically, private sector right now is shrinking. You know the case of S Bank, what's happening. There is no major addition. I don't see any major addition happening. So if you're in the interest rate desk, you can move out of PDs. You can, in fact, you can move out of the insurance companies. You can move out and handle asset management companies, like say the likes of Templeton. Templeton was doing good, but right now you must have heard in the news something wrong happening. But these are the major institutes, major companies, institutions where you can move out of the interest rate desk after you handle all this. So PD, that is the main focus why I wanted to highlight PD from the career perspective. Otherwise, I think interest rate desk is one of the biggest market. The debt is in the entire global setup, but every one of the major minuses of interest rate desk for India is it is just focused on India, so maybe you may not have a hands-on experience of handling, say, of other currencies, say of US treasuries, because that's a majorly traded part. Your main focus will remain only on the Indian setup, the nitty-gritties of how Indian GSEC moves, Indian bonds moves, and out of the so government, so interest rates, I told one of the other portion is corporate debt. See, corporate bonds also have been evolved. I think for last 5-6 years, it has evolved as a good alternative. If you're working in a bank to handle, say, if you don't want to handle GSEC, now you can move out of GSEC, you can move to corporate bond also. But that's a very different ball game. Where in all those areas you need to have, even in interest rate or even in the corporate bond, you need to have a good hang of the balance sheet of the corporates, balance sheet, macro level things of the country if you're handling GSEC. So this all you must be learning, or you might have a good hang of in theoretically, but this all are stuff which you have learned in CFA or in FRM, or maybe if you have done a postgraduate, you will be practically seeing if you are working over there or practically applying. Say, how do I say, how do I take a call on which side the rates will move? How will I call, saying this COVID scenario? Should I invest in corporate bond or not? When I know that okay, these defaults are going to happen. So, but still, corporate bonds are working, right? It's nothing like corporate desk are closed. We know pretty well that over 6 months time, there may be many defaults happening because companies are not running. But depending on the risk appetites of the dealers, of the institute, of the banks, corporate bonds are trading. But obviously, the premium charged are higher. So, as I'm going into specifics, if in case of corporate bonds, pre-COVID and post-COVID, there is a 200 basis up move in the rates because market needs the risk premium. So you would have learned all this in your theoretical, yeah, what's the risk premium? So what you learned over there, it's applied over here. Okay, risk premium is in this event where I know there's a good chance of default happening. What I learned theoretically, I'm applying here. Okay, so now the thing is, how much risk premium I should add? That all you sitting on the floor, sitting on the desk, only you will be able to understand. Okay, should I charge 100 basis risk premium? Should I charge 200 risk premium? Is there is appetite for 200 basis risk premium? All those stuff. So all those are basically interest rate desk, where you basically trade in bonds and stuff. So obviously there you can do both. You can do a prop on the bonds, both on the corporate bonds, on the DSEC also, or if you want, you can handle flows of different institutes who want different, say, financial institutions like the LIC, or say different. So all the insurance companies are there who are one of the major corporate customers for us. or even other minor like the, as I told you, other asset management companies are there, mutual funds are there. So whenever if they want to invest, you can also give a price, two-way price. You can generate that flows, and using that flows you can trade. So you can have a clear division. The one is very clearly prop trade you do, and another is to handle the flows. So this setup basically is there in the interest rate side also, and this same setup is there in the FX side also, which I will take you. I think more or less macro on the macro level, this is what the interest rate does that. It's one of the most exciting part, but one of the major strength which you require when you do interest rate trading is you should know how to handle boredom. When I mean boredom, you take a position and you have to sit on that position for 1 week, for 10 days, till you know that whatever on which macro you have taken a view, it goes and hits that macro. So if you have that ability to sit on the desk, just chat around, but you know your position is running, sit on the desk, chat around, do all type of stuff, but you don't look at the markets, just take a position and you are ready to handle the downside and the upside also. It's so because when I say downside will be very huge because these markets are illiquid, and whenever moves happens, as you know, there are one standard deviation moves, two standard. You must have done all this stuff. So this you are going to see here. So majorly as far as India is concerned, slightly illiquid market, very less participants are there. So there will be a huge moves happening on both sides. You may be on the right side, you may be on the right side, but you should have the ability to hold that position and to walk over that position till your target or whenever you want to exit, depends on it. So this is the main focus which is required on the interest rate risk. There are other exciting curves which are there in the FX side. I will take you through that because those markets are more volatile. I think Ganesh more or less covered this interest rate risk.
Okay. So a small question which we have received from the audience. So for example, when we are talking about prop desk, so there are a lot of bigger institutions like Mahindra or Reliance or Aditya Birla Group. So they will also have a treasury team, and within that treasury team, how big is the prop desk, and what do
No,
you think?
so it again, no. Okay, any other? You wanted to add something?
So I was asking you from the career perspective, how big is the size of that team primarily?
So yes, so you see, as far as companies and other institutions are concerned, so as I told you, everybody needs to handle money. So even for Mahindra and Mahindra, even for Reliance, they have inflows and outflows. They have capital. They have loans. There may be a time when they have surplus funds in their hand, so they will be deploying depending on wherever they want to invest. There may be times when they feel, okay, I'm getting cheaper funds abroad, so I can raise dollar funds, I can convert them. So this all, so there are treasuries. Even all companies have treasuries. So in smaller setups, you may feel, okay, the accountant is the treasury. Say if a small setup, like a very small
Right.
corporate, the accountant is all in all. He handles everything. But in a bigger setup, you will have all the setup. So there will be a CFO, and between the CFO, there will be a manager who will be handling the FX part. There will be a guy who will be handling the investment part. There will be a guy who will be handling the funding part. So how to raise funds. So it's not just focused on banks. This entire setup are there in all major corporates. So Reliance has a very large corporate. So you can take Reliance as a corporate which is more or less equal in size with major private sector banks. So they've got a very huge setup. So same setup is there with all you can call say all maybe top 50 companies, capitalized the listed companies, even unlisted companies. So all have the setup, but it depends on how. So the prop side I'm taking, it depends on how the management views it. So if the management decides, okay, no, I want to generate extra funds from the whatever surplus is lying, I need to have a prop desk, then it's there. But majorly, say there are only few large corporates who have a prop desk per se. I may say top 5, 10. Otherwise, there are no prop desks per se. But there are treasuries who handle all those stuff.
Okay. Okay.
So who handles, if they have FX exposure, they handle the FX part. But obviously, more or less, large corporates have a treasury which handles the INR part. Because you need to know where I can deploy funds, where I can raise funds, how I can raise funds, what cost I can raise funds. CFO is there. Below CFA, depending on the size of the treasury, there will be team setups.
Okay. And sir, from the perspective of primary dealers who are not banks as such, Who are not
So
banks as such.
I couldn't get there was a.
Oh. So,
Can you
so
come again?
yes, sir. So from the perspective of primary dealers who are not bank, okay. So, for example, in India, Morgan Stanley also has a primary dealer position, or they do that service, right? So, in terms of like you said, in from a bank, somebody can move into primary dealer side. But do you see people moving from primary dealer side to a bank's interest rate desk happening?
Uh, See, I'm not. But again, I will tell this all are see how you create your image. It's basically what how you are able to market. You see, everybody is at. If you have the skill sets, you can trade anywhere. You can sit at your home and also you can trade. But if you are in an institute, if you are able to say market yourself, if you are able to show yes as a PD, because you are interacting always, you are interacting with the banks, with the institutes, even if you are sitting in PD. It's two-way. It's not just banks. Even if you're sitting in outside side, if you're in Morgan Stanley, as you told, you will be day in day out. You'll be interacting with the banks. If you
Hmm.
are able to tell, okay, these are the macros which are happening. These are the views I per se. If you're able to interact regularly, maybe I'm not telling because it might not happen. There's a good chance that it could also happen because banks, see, treasurer for a treasurer, any guy irrespective of his qualification, he may be from a B school, he may not be from a B school, he may be just a graduate like me. But if you are able to spot some talent or his ability to generate funds, I think you can. It's fun. But obviously, I'm not here because I'm basically an FX guy. I don't know exactly, but I've not heard per se people moving from PD into
Gotcha.
uh, trading per se into the banks. That
Okay.
to my knowledge, but there may be one or two cases. I don't. It's not that there's nothing which prevents a PD working PD could not come into bank, or a guy who has worked in say treasury of Reliance or say Mahindra cannot come
Hmm.
into the bank, or a guy who has worked in a bank cannot move. So these are all fungible things. It's
Okay.
all fungible things. But obviously, though every has got a different core areas. So if you are able to come out of that core area and demonstrate that you can handle the other stuff also, then you can always move on.
Okay, great, great, great. So let's move to the next slide. Over to you, sir.
So same as I told you, so there are different products in the debt sec. So one is the GSEC part, which I again told you. I forgot to add the corporate bonds. So corporate bonds and GSEC are one of the actively traded on the debt side. Then obviously there are other instruments like the OIS, which you might theoretically heard. So India is also it's developing on the OIS part. It's quite liquid, 1 to 5 years. OIS is very liquid. MyFor is there, and these are the different products. And obviously, depending on the products and depending on the setup, you may have a single dealer handling all those stuff, or you may have a single dealer handling the GSEC, OIS, and MyFor. So more or less, what I have seen in private banks is since the market is not that large, so all these OIS, MyFor, and the INBNK, all these are handled basically by the bond trader, GSEC trader. So GSEC trader always handles all those stuff, and then you may have a guy handling the corporate bond side, depending on the setup. In private, sorry, in a smaller setup, there may guy only one guy who will be handling all. He will be handling corporate bonds. He may be handling all this stuff. So interest rate futures are obviously guy which are listed in the exchanges, NSE, BSE, these are listed in exchanges. So all these are majorly structured instruments. So in foreign banks, it's more. So single guy, there are guys who handle the entire domain. So there is only guy who handles the entire FX part. And there is only one guy who handles the entire GSEC part. Though the volumes are huge. So obviously depends on the setup which they have. Depends on the revenue the guys are able to generate. Yes. So, okay, I will now move to the FX part. So, I have been an FX trader for the last 15 years, and obviously, this is my passion. Uh, you see, basically, so what I was told you was the INR part. So, basically, banks, uh, from an Indian perspective, INR rupee is there. So, as a bank, I get rupee and I deploy rupee. So how I deploy? I lend, give to corporate, take a credit risk, or I give to the markets and I take a market risk. Okay. So in so these are the INR parts. So if an FX is involved, say if another currency is involved, this is where the forex FX comes in. So now when I talk about FX, so as I told you, there are banks who there are no need for a bank to have an FX desk at all. Say if tomorrow say S Bank is there, so S Bank decides okay fine, I need to curtail my setup. I don't know if any S Bank guys are there. I'm just telling as an example. So say so for a matter S Bank or any other bank, if say decides okay I need to curtail my setup. I don't want an FX desk per se. So I just want the INR part to function. Okay, well and fine. So what is the FX part? So if I got any exporters and importers, I can very smoothly route all those transactions through another bank. So it is not per se required for an FX trading desk to be there. But yes, banks see a huge potential because all banks, wherever private banks or even all PSU banks, everybody has, when you give a credit, you just not give credit to guys who do domestic manufacturing, you give credit to guys who export, who import. So whenever there is an export or import involved, so I'm telling why a forex desk is involved, required per se in a bank. So whereas an export and import guy is involved, as a bank, I need to handle is that currency part also. So whichever currency or whichever country is exporting and importing, that currency part I need to handle. So that is the main requirement why an FX desk is per se required in any bank. So it's not just the INR part which I need to service. So I need to service the importers and exporters, the FX part of it. So where he wants to convert, how he wants to convert. And as a bank, obviously I see an opportunity. Okay, fine, I'm giving you a loan, I'm taking a credit risk on you. Okay, so why don't you route all your conversion to us? So that is per se a major revenue earner as far as the FX piece is involved. So where when I talk about the FX piece, I talk about the FX flows. So what are the exporters or importers? What are the flows it need? That is a major revenue earner. So if you see the balance sheet of banks, Treasury has got two. One is the interest income, obviously, which NIM is there. The other is the exchange income. So per se, exchange income is whatever I earn from this conversion part. So from a bank perspective, so bank has got a two clear domain. That also depends on the whichever bank, depending on the bank and their risk appetite. So one is clearly the prop side, and the other is the which I will talk about the flow side. Okay, so flow. How does the flow happen? Flow are the exporters and importers, which are to say I'm just focusing on dollar. So whatever dollars inflows and outflows happen, that gets routed through my bank. So to convince the client, okay, you route through us, or to convince the client how to where to hedge your flows, which rate to convert, because all these are volatile rates. If you say if an exporter or importer has a margin of 10%, or 20%, if an exporter has got just a margin of 10%, and say as you talk in COVID term, right now currency has moved, dollar has moved from 71 to 77. So nearly 6%, more than your 10% of your margin is wiped off. So bank per se looks at this as an opportunity. So I go and tell the clients, banks go and tell the client, okay guys, you can, this is a good rate to hedge. So I do this hedging part, guiding those. So I'm handling basically the exchange risk of the client. I'm not handling, I'm advising the exchange risk of the client. And so that is one of the major core area of banks from the flow perspective. I will come to the prop perspective later. This I'm talking the flow perspective. All banks have this as the major revenue earner. So one is I'm advising the clients which level you to have. Then obviously there are many regulations around FX. FX is not an easy game. There are many regulations. RBI have got a lot of regulations. You can't just easily export and import. There are so many documentations are there, LCs are there, so many stuff are there. I think many guys who might be knowing if you're working in a bank or not. So all the stuff, all those advising, so all this happens from the bank. I tell you, okay, you can use these documents, you can import through this. if you want to raise funds, you can raise funds to PCFC. So if you want to raise from abroad, LIBOR is at this rate. So if you want to convert, this is the forward rate. So at this rate you can convert. So this all is handled by a bank. So when a bank handles this, so there is a separate team which handles all those stuff, which is called the FX sales team. So basically, which is I think one of the more say if you are from a career's perspective, okay, if you feel कि नहीं भाई I don't like boredom, भाई मुझे तो I can't sit in front of the desk or from 9 to 5 just stare at the screen. अरे कुछ नहीं हो रहा है, अरे मेरा पैसा आया, मेरा पैसा गया, I don't pull my hairs and all. I don't want to do this. If you're good in marketing, if you're good in sales, if you're able to pitch that good, so this is the sales part which I'm going to talk about. So this is one of the, again I'm telling you, this is also equally important part other than the from a career perspective, other than the trading which I'm doing right now. So sales is equally important. All banks need guys who have strong relationship with corporates, who can just by a phone call can generate flows. I can just call Reliance and tell भाई मुझे क्या धंधा नहीं दे रहे हो, मुझे धंधा, so he comes and gives you flows, because bank requires those flows to generate money. It's not something your bank can generate money. So sales has also got an equally important role, though it is not because when you talk about sales, it looks भाई अरे ये तो जब करंट अकाउंट सेल कर रहे हो या फिर मैं म्यूचुअल फंड बेच रहा हूँ या इससे मैं कुछ और मार्केटिंग कर रहा हूँ. So people usually relate all those stuff, but I'm telling you guys, FX sales is one of the niche area of the treasury part, where you can, if you are say if you're not inclined in trading, I know guys who have come and started trading by मुझसे नहीं होता, I just go around and they're going well in the sales part. So it depends on your personality. It depends on where you see yourself growing in your career path. So if you don't like boredom, if you're not strong on say मतलब मुझे obviously this is also a risk game. So if you can't handle the downside, तो आप sales में चले जाओ, sales में जाओ, आप network करो, you generate funds from the bank, and you can equally earn what a trader earns, or in fact more. If you've got great relationship skills, you can earn more in the sales part also. So the sales also, I'm not focused here in the slide, but as I'm taking to the sales also has got a how I'm just trying to correlate how a CFA or an FRM can help you from a sales perspective. So from say if you have done a CFA, so in the sales, it's not just pure sales कि हाँ मैंने जाके उसको बोल दिया ये exporter है importer है. So there is a niche area in sales also, so which is known as a derivative sales. तो वहाँ पर जाके आप क्लाइंट को पिच करोगे, उनका बैलेंस शीट, यू जस्ट गो एंड स्टडी देयर बैलेंस शीट कि ओके आपका इतना लायबिलिटीज है, इतना असेट्स है, आपका INR में इतना लायबिलिटीज, आपका फॉरेन करेंसीज में इतना लायबिलिटीज, आपका इतना इनफ्लो है फॉरेन करेंसी में. आई होप आई गाइस आर मेकिंग सेंस टू ऑल ऑफ दिस. आई नो there may be time when it may be bouncing. So what I'm trying to convey is so the niche is a derivative side. We go and pitch the client to study their balance sheet and go and tell them कि सर आपको मुझे लगता है आपके पास इम्पोर्ट और बहुत इम्पोर्ट कवरिंग बाकी है, कोविड का सिचुएशन है, राइट आई एम टेलिंग द राइट नाउ कॉन्टेक्स्ट, देयर इज अ चांस दैट गुड चांस दैट इंडिया का रेटिंग डाउनग्रेड हो जाएगा, एंड इफ दैट केस हैपेंस एंड इफ यू से इफ यू हैव अ पेमेंट टू मेक इन द लास्ट नेक्स्ट 6 months, so I think better you go and buy a call. ठीक है, आप मार्केट में जाइए, कॉल बाई कर लीजिए, ठीक है, ताकि आपका अपसाइड प्रोटेक्टेड हो. So this is one entering one of the simple structures which you do. So there are many complicated structures there, which say I'm just telling about the FX part. So if you want to go and tell कि आपको say you have got this is your balance sheet, okay, आपने यहाँ raise किया, पैसा raise किया, ठीक है, तो आप इसको आपको if you want to cut down out that mean, say you can use this structure. Which structure you can use? Say you can go for an IRS. ठीक है, अभी लगता है कि हाँ अभी रेट नियरली बॉटम आउट हो चुका है, ओके, क्योंकि अभी लग रहा है इन्फ्लेशन सबके पास इन्फ्लेशन बढ़ने वाला है, एक बार कोविड हो गया, सब हो गया, क्योंकि दैट इज आई एम टेलिंग यू व्हाट देयर आर नो गवर्नमेंट आल्सो नीड फंड्स, कॉर्पोरेट आल्सो नीड फंड्स, तो पैसा देयर विल बी ह्यूज डिमांड फॉर मनी. सो ऑब्वियसली हो सकता है कि आपका ओवर 1 year पीरियड रेट्स यहाँ से रिवर्स, मतलब इंटरेस्ट रेट यहाँ से रिवर्स हो जाए, तो आप जाकर IRS आप कर लो, सर आप फिक्स से फ्लोटिंग से फिक्स करो, अभी आपका फ्लोटिंग है, आप ये स्ट्रक्चर करो फ्लोटिंग करो. सो दिस आर द स्टफ व्हिच अ सेल्स गाय कैन गो एंड पिच टू द क्लाइंट. So sales is also an important part. So coming back on the trading desk, which I feel since I've been doing this, I feel it is more exciting. Where and since FX is slightly more volatile, you need to have among other things, you need to have a very strong decision. You need to take decisions very fast. You need to have a very clear understanding of stuff. These all are there across assets also. It's not just it's specific of FX, but an FX part, since markets are very volatile within within and our entire scenario changes like anything. So you must be very fast in making decisions. And obviously, since things are very volatile, you need to have a very, it's very stressful. So obviously, you need to have a counterbalance for the stress. कि हाँ मुझे यहाँ stress आ रहा है, तो how you overcome the stress? You need to have a counterbalance for that. So basically, these are what are occurred. So in trading, in FX also, for Indian banks, I'm just trying to cover. So basically, there are different desks which handles different products. So which I right now, which I'm handling, I'm doing a prop desk in the USD INR part. So which are the first one. There is a decent market for that, because this is one of the main focus for Indian banks, because obviously everybody, all exporters, importers need to have, they need to convert into INR, dollar. If there is a dollar, they need to convert into INR. So you need to have an desk which handles the USD INR part. So this is the USD INR spot desk. So then next is the forward desk. So forward desk are basically the swaps, forward swaps, which you must have used, you must have learned theoretically. So futures and forwards are there. So forward desk is there. India, since it's not that liquid, it's a very liquid market. So there are what you call arbitrage opportunities or discrepancies in pricing happening. So per se, forward doesn't have a very active desk abroad among foreign banks, but in India setup, because there's a opportunities available. So here also there's a very active desk in the forward side. So process is basically desk which handles the other than the INR part. So if you're trading in euro dollar, if you're trading in GBP dollar or USD yen or other overseas, whatever currencies you know. So these are handled by the process desk, and the currency derivative desk is again, I will tell this. So these are the plain stuff where basically you need to have a core strength on trading or handling flows. Currency derivative desk is again the derivative part, where say you trade. So if you want, it's currency futures are there, you trade on the exchanges. Then there are options, plain vanilla options are there, or you trade in LTFX. LTFX is, so forwards are basically in Indian contracts are meant only when you trade till 1 year. So spot to 1 year is what is known as forwards in Indian contracts. So if it's more than 1 year, that asset class is known as LTFX, so long-term forwards. So LTFX desk is there. This is also very active. Now obviously, then other than all these, there are the BIFOR desk, which obviously prices the difference between the LIBOR and the Indian this one. So there are different setup are there, again depending on the setup of the bank. So basically all these three, the first three, nearly all banks have. So they have a spot desk, they have a forward desk, and they have a process desk. The derivative part only top private banks have, and obviously foreign banks also have. So if you've got the top, if you go below the top 5 private banks, nobody per se have the currency derivative desk. But if there is a client who comes and hits those banks, they usually come and hit back to back, cover back to back with us or with the foreign banks. So obviously, if you have a domain knowledge over there also, if you're working in a smaller sector bank also, you will be able to, you need to have a knowledge of that, which you can use to pitch to your clients and generate flows, and with that you can, there's no need for you to run the book, but obviously you need to have a strong knowledge of all those. So it's not simple ki you go and sit there, you need to have a very strong domain knowledge. You need to have a clear understanding of the macros, what's happening all around. You need to have a strong understanding of the micros, how the theoretical part, the practical part, how the interest rate moves, what are the factors affecting the currencies movements, and then plus your skill set other than the theoretical part or year of experience. You know, these are the this is the time where things are going to change. I need to forecast. Okay, now COVID is there. So 4 months down the line, 5 months down, now there's a panic setup. I know there's a panic, but over 4 months or 5 months down the line, when say government doesn't have funds to fiscal deficit will be you don't know what will be status of physical deficit, so there's a good chance the forwards may get trade. So forwards may move higher. So these all macros you need to have a good hang of. Plus, obviously, each desk has got its own focus area, has got some nitty-gritties on other. You need to, over a period of time, you will have a good hang of them. So this is one of the exciting part about trading is it's not like, say, if you're an analyst, so you do analysis, you send a report, say कि हाँ okay, this is my target and ये होने वाला है, do analysis, you would do a modeling, and so as per my modeling, okay, fine, currency is going to move from here to there. You send a report and sit back, and after 6 months you go, okay, मेरा हो गया. You send a mail कि देखो I have told this. After 6 months this has happened, and you enjoy a day. But in trading, whatever other than this, you actually go and sit and take a position. You actually go and see and take a downside. So when you take a downside, when there are consistent days when you have a downside, so this is where your mental strength comes up. This is where you feel confident कि okay, नहीं मैंने ये सोचा था, ये हुआ था, और मैंने इतना नीचे आने के बाद भी मैंने इसको होल्ड कर रखा because my conviction was very strong. But then I took the upside. Then there may be cases also when okay, you lose money which you are earning, say in 1 month time you are earning, and in 2 days you just wipe out everything. So these are all downsides are there, but so this is a kick which gives, as a trader you will feel okay. Obviously, I've been there for 14 years. You can see the excitement when I talk about trading. So this is there, matlab, so it depends on basically your personality. If you're suited for all those, if you're okay, I'm ready to take the risk, I'm ready to handle the downside, I think this is the best field. I'm talking more about FX because I've been there for the last 14 odd years.
Thank you very much, sir. So
Okay,
one small question. So from the audience side, Rohan is asking whether you see technical analyst working in the treasury side. So I just, because you are also, if I'm not wrong, looking at the technical
say
charts and all.
no, you see chart. See, so when I'm talking about trading, obviously, so there are two stuff very clearly. One is I need to have a very clear hangover of all these macros and all, and second clear stuff is I need to have a clear understanding of the chart. Okay, so chart technical analysis. Say if you are talking about FX side, it is a very so it depends on how you are able to generate flow for the fund. So if you're very strong on fundamentals, if you have a long-term scale, okay, 6 months. So because when you're trading forwards, you need not have to look at the charts alone. Though charts do convey कि हाँ, there are points where reversal happen, but usually nobody who trades in forwards, they don't look at the charts alone. Rarely guys looks at the chart because you need to have a strong hang of the fundamentals. You need to have a strong hang of the interest rate movement, all those stuff. But say if you're asking about the plain vanilla stuff, if you're looking to capture the 1 week moves, intraday moves, so where say within 1 week, unless there's a big event happening, there may not be major move happening. So currency will be moving around the say range. So now where to enter, where to exit, all those stuff, you need to have a strong. If you want to move into trading, you need to have a decent hang of the technical ones. Technicals, this is required. Because chart trading is very much required. So I just forgot to tell, but I thought I was covering the last one. But yes, that is very much required. But it is not the only one criteria. Yes, I have a very strong knowledge of charts, so I can get into treasury. No, that's not the criteria at all. I don't see banks. Say if you're covered CMT, if you're मतलब पास CMT आपने ला के रख दिया कि देखो मुझे टेक्निकल आता है, आप मुझे ले लो, तो no. Banks usually, but there are roles. India has not developed that far, but there are roles abroad where they look at strategists. Okay, so strategist is basically analyst. So from the currency perspective, so what he does is obviously there are technical chartists are there, technical analysts are there, strategists are there, and there are fundamental strategists are there. So all major banks, all major foreign banks do have. So where there are chartists whose work is to push on the charts to understand all those stuff and give out calls, so that obviously they have a very big client base, or they have a big books running. So all traders or who are corporates are there, they have a hand key. I'm adding a value to them. So there are, but in Indian setup, just with an CMT, so if you got a degree, or even if you got a good practical knowledge of technical analysis, it's very difficult to get into Indian, at least Indian sector.
Okay, okay, cool. Thank you very much, sir. Let's go to the next slide. So let's talk about equity piece.
So equity from a bank perspective, there are many restrictions. You can't short sell equities. You need to necessarily take delivery. So there are caps to how much percentage of your capital you can invest in equity. And so majorly, I don't see private banks having a major setup in equity. So there are investment calls which happens in management, or there is an investment committee which sits and which takes a call. Okay, we need to invest certain portion in a certain company. So that analysis and all is done by a equity analyst. Okay, there is a guy, one or two. But and from the cost prop perspective also, since you can't short sell, you can't use hedges, you can't move into derivatives from a bank. You just need to take a delivery, and then you need to take a call. Plus, since there is a very lucrative market outside the banking setup, they got very big brokerage houses are there, very big fund houses are there, hedge fund. So banks, I don't see people trying to get into banking setup and look into equity portfolio. There are one or two guys who are there across all the banks, but it's basically there's no demand as such, because there's a wide market outside. From an equity perspective, there's a wide market outside the banking setup. So I've never seen, and obviously there are so much regulations involved. So you can't trade freely, just like I'm doing FX. I can't go and short sell, I can't even short sell. I can't trade on the Nifty. So many, from a trading perspective, there are many constraints are there. So, but yes, bank has all banks have an equity desk. So again, it depends on the bank size. Banks have a separate equity desk, or usually then that's also basically with the GSEC itself. The GSEC guy handles the portfolio, whatever is it. Or even it could be that a corporate bond guy handles, because he studies the balance sheet. He knows a fair idea of how. So from a perspective, from a trading desk, from a investment equity trading desk perspective, say if you have if you have good knowledge of how you are able to read the balance sheet, how you are able to read the P&L and all, how you are able to do a modeling, and how you are able to project, say 1 year down the line, 2 year down the line. Obviously, you have to, if you have strong strength on all those, you can join the equity desk, and there are notes you need to put up regularly, your thoughts to the management, to the investment committee, basically, which handles all those stuff. Because usually banks don't, whenever there's a talk of investment, they need to have it's not just today I invested and I get out over, say, within 1 week or something. Whenever there's investment, they have a longer horizon, say 6 months, 1 year down the line. They usually move. So obviously, if you are on the desk, your main job other than this will be you need to put up regularly. You need to apprise the investment committee. Okay, these are the areas where you can invest. This has happened. But usually, more or less, it's top-down approach only, because obviously there are, other than investment, there are many other calls which the management has to take. There are many other things which are at stake. So usually it's a top-down approach where management, investment committee sits and tells, okay, we'll take a call on this. We'll invest this much portion in this company and this corporate, and basically these guys execute. The guys who sits on the desk. So basically there is not that freedom as a trader which you would like to, both from a regulation perspective also, and from taking calls. But yes, there are guys, they make decent money. You have to short sell कर ही नहीं सकते. You sit for 2 days. 2 days के अंदर आपका गणेश आया. So after 2 days, you know कि हाँ ऊपर जा रहा है, then you keep on holding the position. So in the bull run they do make money, and in the bear run, if you're smart enough to exit, you're exited. You just sit quiet. अगर आपने exit नहीं लिया, अगर stop loss limits, you get stopped out. So all those stuff happen, but it's not that कि आपने दोनों way, if you want you can go short, you can use a cross hedges. या आपने जैसा पढ़ा कि हाँ कि मैंने covered call कर लिया, ठीक है, या मैंने जैसे आपने बहुत सारे structures से मैंने straddle उठा लिया, strangle उठा लिया. This at least in banks you won't enjoy all this stuff. So yes, there are setup out there, but it's very much constrained. But obviously, there will be times when things are changing very rapidly. So hopefully, there also things might change. But as such, right now, I would, if you have an equity inclination, I would suggest you move to the bank specialist.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much, sir. So let's move on to the next desk, which is commodity. Over to you, sir.
So again, see from the so again, there are regulations around the commodity banks. Not every bank has a commodity desk, and I think hardly few banks, top few banks, just have commodity desk. And among in commodity also, I'm talking about Indian perspective. Only bullion is allowed. So bullion, when you talk about bullion, it's gold and silver. So only two, gold and silver, banks can handle. Uh, so not since if you have a strong client base, or say if you have a strong credit which thinks we okay, we need to take exposure on the merchants who are exporting or importing say gold, silver or diamond. Then those banks usually have a bullion desk, because I know there's a sizable chunk of credit which I've lent over to them and I need to service them. So usually all those banks only have this desk, and again there's a lot of regulation happening, because gold, as you might have heard, has a great impact on the current account deficit. So you might have, there are many restriction, import duties happening, regulations around. There's still licensing there. So as a bank also, I need to get a license from the RBI. Every year it is renewed. So all the stuff happen. So it's very, so hardly, because again it's a very very small market, gold and silver, and usually wherever I've given credit, only those guys come and give me flows. So wherever a bank has decided, okay, I don't, from a credit perspective, I don't want to handle any diamond clients, I don't want to handle any gold clients. Obviously, there's no need to have an commodity test. And per se, you can't do a prop trading in commodity from a bank perspective. There were, I think, 1 or 2 years before there was a budget, there were announcement that slowly this will be deregulated, where bank can also start prop, bank can also start in other commodities and all, in crude and all. But as such, nothing has come out per se. So right now, status quo is it's just flow covering, whichever export import flows gold come, that is being handled by the few banks which have this commodity desk from Indian perspective. From globally, yes, commodity is a very huge market. All banks uh, have a active commodity desk. Other than gold and silver, crude is a very huge market for banks. Uh, then obviously depending on the countries, wherever there is a focus on agri, say if you're talking about Malaysia, say if you're talking about Indonesia, say so where commodities, they are major importers, exporters of commodity basically. So all those banks need to have an commodity desk. Say also as far as crude is concerned, say if I'm sitting in Russia, say if I'm sitting, so there are banks, all banks wherever. So it depends on uh, where is the major flow coming. So if I see, if a bank sees lucrative business, if a bank sees an opportunity to generate revenue, obviously they have those desks. But per se, from an Indian perspective, it's just these two. And since there is no prop trading allowed, so if you have an inclination for doing a commodity prop trading, you better you have to do. Not that you have to go to the MCX and the MCX of the world, rather than coming to the commodities. Yes, commodities have their own nitty-gritties. It is not easy to understand. So unless you have a very strong hang of agriculture commodities, so you have a very strong background from a uh, you know how crops grow, say you know when weather is going to come, or when it's going to rain, or you have a hang of all those stuff, you go and sit in the agriculture trading. But otherwise, it's not that lucrative. And from if you're looking just from a career perspective, uh, again, I would like to leave it at us.
Sir, a small question. So in the commodity side also, when we are looking at only bullion, so the structure is same. You have a sales side who is actually negotiating or talking to the clientele side who are dealing in gold and silver, and also we have
So
a
there
trading
is no
side.
separate, there is no trading per se in this. So you see, when I talk of trading, so there are two trading happening. One is the prop trading, which I am doing right now, and there is another set of trading which is known as the flow trading. So a sales guy, say he has a good relationship with Reliance. So what he does, he goes and talks to the Reliance. कि भाई मुझे आप इतना एक्सपोर्ट इंपोर्ट करते हो हमारे बैंक में आने आप कुछ फ्लो दोगे. So Reliance बोला ठीक है बेटा आ जा क्योंकि तुम मैं तुझे जानता हूँ चल come on let's. It all depends on relationship. Also.
Right.
So he tells okay चल आ जा you sell 100 million for me. So when he tells this to a sales guy, the sales guy hits the flow trader. So I'm not a flow trader, I'm the prop trader. So I do basically prop trading. I just I see the charts, I trade about. But the flow trader, other than doing making money via this, so he also handles the flow of this. So sales trader will ask a two-way quote. So you must have seen a two-way quote happen. You must have theoretically you must have heard ki हाँ भाई there are two-way quotes. So this is how it happened. So sales guy, so Reliance will tell कि give me 100 million quote to the sales guy. The sales guy will relay this to the flow desk guy. So he will ask a quote for 100 million, say to a flow desk guy, and the flow desk guy will give him a quote. Say he quoted 75, 50, 75, 55. So this is the quote he has given. So depending on Reliance, if he maybe he wants to buy, he does. Nobody knows what is his side. Reliance only knows what he wants to do. So he depending on my quote, he may hit him. So he may buy also, he may sell also. So $100 that gets relayed to this. So what is the benefit for the bank is when he hits 100 million. So there's a fixed margin for the bank. So bank charges fixed margin from the client depending on bank, depending on relationship, depending on the credit risk of the profile. And that flow trader, he gets what is known as the bid-ask spread.
Right.
You might have theoretically also studied what is the bid-ask spread. So this bid-ask. So he say if a client, so say Reliance has come and hit me on the left. So he has bought 100 million, and luckily say if some other client is there who is there on the right side, so he buys from him. So both get matched off. So 100 million I bought at X rate and 100 million I sold at X rate. Both get matched off. So I am generating flow. I'm generating revenue from them. So small ticket size keep on accumulating, and they keep on. So that's the revenue. And plus, I need to run all those positions profitably. So it could be that Reliance has hit me 100 million, and market goes down, and I have to cut it at the loss. That also could happen. So profitably has to run. So this is on the FX side, and same setup is there on the interest rate side also. But since there is not that a huge market for interest rate, and since say the likes of there are PDs are there, then there are major institutions who can directly go and hit the market. So there is not huge market for interest rate side. And from the commodity side, since there is no prop trading happening, so basically it's the flow covering one. So the client he wants to so obviously usually it's import only happens. Clients usually don't export, so gold only import happens, silver only import happens. So per se, according to pricing happens, so sales guy comes and asks for a quote. Yes, there is a sales team setup is there, but there's not a huge or a vibrant setup which happens. It's a very small setup because obviously there are not big markets for gold and silver. A very small setup, say 10, 15 guys will be there, where major setups are. But whereas an FX sales is a very huge setup. So there is a setup which sits in the dealing room. There's a setup which goes to the ground level, which talks to the client. So in the dealing room, maybe it could be depending on the banks. It could be 15 sales traders sitting in the dealing room. It could be 10 sales traders sitting in the dealing room. And outside the dealing room again, on the ground level, so there may be some. So that is pure sales only. So there may be 500s and thousands of guys who are handling all those small ticket sales. So, but if you want to have a feel of exactly, so you need to enter the sales side from the dealing room perspective. You need to enter the dealing room and you need to handle sales. So you have all those excitement.
Okay. So sir, basically we have kind of covered all the major desks that are there in a treasury team. So I'll just try to summarize it for the benefit of the audience. Just correct me if I'm wrong at some point in time. So what all desks we have seen is we have seen interest rate desk, we have seen FX desk, we have seen equity and commodity. The primary major desk that we have in an Indian bank where there is a lot of action happening is your equity or the FX desk. And within these desks, the general structure is that you have a trading side and you have the sales side.
No, Ganesh, equity is slightly FX side happens, activity happens.
FX is more active, more interesting or more activity driven side.
Obviously, I have been there for a long time, so maybe I love that better. But yes, I do believe it's exciting. It's very exciting.
Right. So from the career perspective, we do have bigger teams in interest rate side and the FX side also, right?
Yes,
So,
yes.
and just for the audience benefit, we have the sales side, we have the trading side, and within trading side, you will find generally a prop side, prop desk, or a flow trader. And whatever
Yes.
prop desk is primarily doing on the on behalf of the bank and trying to generate revenue, it can be speculations also,
Exactly.
right? And with respect to the flow
Speculate.
trader, only speculation. Yeah.
So,
With respect to the flow trader,
yes.
he is basically taking the client's requirement and doing trading on behalf of the client and generating revenue in terms of fee for the bank. Right, sir?
So he does both. So he generates that. It's not called fee per se. So the whatever margin is there is taken by the sales guy. So
Okay.
he generates that money from the bid ask spread and plus taking speculative positions. So
Okay.
I will put it a different way. So I need to offload. So if I'm able to offload profitably,
Hmm.
I take a speculation call. Okay, from here price will go up. So I take a speculative call and I then offload. So I make money. If my call has gone wrong, I lose money. So that
Okay.
is also prop is involved, but there is a support in the sense that you get the bid ask spread. So there is a
Okay.
support. Inbuilt
Okay.
support is there. So I have an inbuilt margin. So if a line set me the X price, so I may have a buffer of 1 or 2 paisa on the lower side. So that will give me a buffer. Then I can take a so speculative plus bid ask support. Whereas prop is clearly prop. It's just like you're doing your equity trading, you're sitting at home
Right.
or whatever you.
Okay. Okay. Seems good, sir. Seems good. So let's move to the next part, which is basically the other teams which are who are supporting the treasury side. So balance sheet management. If over to you, sir.
Okay, so again, see, so these all are the different where you can look to do a prop trade also. What I'm going to cover is basically the core and core of treasury. So this is the balance sheet management. So when I talk about balance sheet management, and from a career perspective, say if you like to do analysis, if you love, if you understand the money flow, if you're good at modeling, then I think more or less you fit into this group. So what is the balance sheet management? It's basically, I would put it slightly different. This is where you need to interact in and out with the top management. So what is it? Balance sheet management basically it's handling the balance sheet of the bank. So the balance sheet obviously has two. One is the INR part and one will be the overseas part. So there are two stuffs are there. So all the INR liabilities and assets, and again the foreign currency assets and liabilities. So how effectively, and just it could be not from the bank, even from bank perspective, all major corporates which guys talked about in the say likes of Reliance or Mahindra and Mahindra. So all these guys do have a very strong balance sheet group, which basically what does it do? It analyzes the balance sheet, it analyzes the market conditions. So where I need to invest, where I need to take out my investment, how I need to deploy funds. So say if today the bank decides I need to because repo rate is cut. So how much basis repo rate so has to be cut. ALM management, all those stuff comes under the balance sheet management. So basically, from an Indian bank perspective, since RBI has got a major chunk of it, you need to keep in SLR. So that part is handled by the balance sheet management group. So it again depends on the banks to bank, but all major private sector banks do have a separate team which handles the SLR part. Because again, SLR part is one of the major revenue generator for the banks. In the sense, RBI has mandated right now, I think it's 21%. So 21% of the funds you need to keep as an SLR. Okay. So if bank decides out of the 21%, if I invested, how I need to check. So RBI gives a window. See, so by April 1st, if you want to move, you can move your portfolio or a part of your portfolio from held to maturity to ready for sale. So I'm taking like slightly micro level. So why it's more focused for the bank perspective is because since I have a major portfolio in SLR and I'm allowed to generate. So depending on a call which the management takes. Again, this from when I'm talking about SLR part, this call is taken by the management, but from input from the guy who sits in the dealing room. So from the dealing room guy, he again studies the market, he again analyzes, and again he gives an inputs to the top management. So here you day in day out you interact with the top management, you have a strong feel. Say tomorrow down the line, if you look yourself as a treasurer, if you look as a heading a treasury of the bank, heading a treasury of a say a corporate, or say if you are looking, I want to move out and start my own stuff, I need to advise corporates how to handle all those stuff. This all stuff, this is an area where, because this is a major chunk of the money is deployed, this is where the guys, you need to, you have an interaction with the top management, you have a thinking, you have a great insight into what the thought process which goes into when the funds are deployed, when the funds need to be removed, what is the CRR, how the CRR is maintained from bank perspective. So this is, since SLR, just from SLR perspective, yes, this is a major revenue generator, because bank is able to, if the call is right of the management, bank is able to generate a large chunk of the treasury profit from their SLR portfolio. So all those interest rate stuff, FX stuff do generate revenues, but everything has got a limitation. From the FX perspective, the prop trader has a limitation how much it can generate a revenue. From the sales side also, depending on your credit profile, how much you're given credit, depending on the export import of the country, you can generate an X revenue. And the interest rate side also, again, the prop side has got a limitation, flow side is nearly negligible. Corporate bond also has got its own limitation. You can't take a higher, greater risk, because you know there is a risk, there is a reward, but you can't take more than, because there's a huge risk involved. So that has also got a limitation. So whenever you see, okay, X bank has generated a beautiful revenue, it means that you just go and dig, slightly dig deeper into the stuff. You will see that whatever funds, major funds have come, is because the management has taken a call, when should I exit from the part of the SLR portfolio on the interest rate. I've taken a call on the interest rate move, and I have come out of that. So since it's a major chunk is involved, management in and out has a track on this. And since you are at the desk, you give an in and out insight to the management fault. So there's an interaction happening. So if you're strong in analytical, you are strong in communication, you have a vision to, okay, I need to go there, I need to have an overview of entire stuff, how it's happening, and this is the best place. So again, then overseas funding. So as I told for the corporate, say if the bank is able to, again there are caps, how much overseas fund you can generate. So a bank accept deposit not only in INR, banks accept deposits only in foreign currencies also. So that is also major portfolio. So there are, these are called the FCNRB deposits. So these deposits, how to deploy these funds? So should I deploy it in to my branches overseas? Should I invest those in treasuries, US treasuries? All those calls are handled here. Then again, balance sheet gaps and hedging. So these are all ALM stuff. You must have heard that my asset is for X period and my liabilities for Y period. So how I manage all those stuff. Then there is a liquidity. It's a major chunk is liquidity parts also. So there may be times where you don't have funds to give to corporates. So there is a huge demand for credit. You don't have funds. So all this stuff is being managed over here. Then again, NIM is there. So NIM, as I told, so how often, what's my cost of funds and how I'm able to deploy that cost of funds. When should I cut my rates? When should I keep on hold? So these are calls are being taken. It's just not key RBI has cut the rates. Bank directly goes and cuts. You must have seen all hue and cry happening. Why banks are not cutting rates? So why banks are not cutting it? Because I have given lender to a corporate where I see credit default happening, and I see if I keep on cutting my rates. So if I'm all my liabilities. So whatever I got deposits are at an X rate, and whatever I am now going offering are at the lower rate. So obviously my NIM is keeps on going shrinking. Plus there are NPAs are there. So here also, I would say this is one of the area where even the head of the bank or has a clear what you call eye on this, because NIM matters a lot from a management perspective. If my NIM is shrinking, or if my cost of funds is higher than the other guys in the market, then I won't be able to offer a better rate to borrowers, and obviously I will be losing out to business. So that's cost. If I'm not able to raise funds at a cheaper rate, then again my NIM will shrink. So all those many stuffs are involved. So all this stuff is handled by the guys who sit in the NIM desk. Now obviously there is a cost involved. So treasury, when I take funds to deploy in the GSET, it has got a cost of funding. When I say I got funds, I invest in corporate bond, there's a cost involved. When I invest in equities, there's a cost involved. So all those stuff are being handled by the DIROC team. So basically, balance sheet management, I will tell, say, if you are good in analytics, you are good in modeling, if you have a clear overview on the domestic side, majorly on the interest rate stuff, on the macros surrounding the domestic and the say if you have foreign currencies also, then obviously whichever countries you got exposure to have, and say down the line if you have a call, okay, I need to have move up to the ladder. I think this is the best place to sit. But yes, again, this is a boring job. You don't see daily RBI coming and repo rates cutting happening. You don't see NIM daily bank, but NIM don't move daily. So this happens occasionally. So obviously, if you have that inclination, okay, I can sit during all other time. I can do modeling, I interact with the management, I do some different stuff. Then yes, this is a very good place. But yes, from a future perspective, I think it does has a very good strength. Those you have a very strong overview how the entire stuff happens.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Thank you. So definitely, this is the team wherein major decision making happens because they are directly interacting with the senior management, right? So
Yes.
let's move to the next part, and so we are short on time, so we'll try to cover the last two sides as soon as possible. So the next is money
Okay,
market
fine.
funding group. Over to you, sir.
So again, as I covered, so basically there are banks where balance sheet management and money market is handled by a single group also. So again, CRR management, the RBI mandates that you need to have a strong, you need to manage your CRR. So that's a team which handles that. Then there's a market for CPCDs, the corporate commercial papers and certificate of deposits. So there in CPCDs also there are certain banks who trade on these CPCDs, and there are certain banks who just issue CPCDs. So depending on the bank size, there may be, so smaller size bank don't have a CPCD exposure also, they don't do anything. So only one guy is there who handles all the stuff. Again, in the bigger banks, the CPCD or even a CD could be handled by a single guy, or it could be handled by a different guy. Again, managing liquidity, LCR, ratios, all this stuff. So this, depending on the bank setup, there may be a guy who handles it, or there may be entire only different desk will be there. There will be a guy who handles the entire domain, or a single guy who could handle it. Yeah.
Okay, so primarily, when we have the funds available, how do we make sure that which part of the entire portion will go into money market asset side? That is what this group is actually focusing on, right, sir? So
No, this is basically, I will tell more on the micro level.
okay,
So day to day, CRM management has to happen day to day. I need to manage funds every
uh,
fortnight. I have to report. Managing liquidity, I need to have a strong tab. Say tomorrow, if I got a huge outflow, or say there is a corporate who I have disbursed 10,000 crores. So
mhm.
from where I need to generate funds. So all those is so basically liquidity. So just like I
Okay,
handle my
okay,
liquidity uh, from a personal perspective, it's from a bank perspective, liquidity is handled. And again, CPCD is from say if as a bank I can raise CDs for if I need to have liquidity, or if I have extra funds, I can go and invest in CPs and CDs to generate extra rate,
okay, okay,
just
got it.
rather than putting the deposit.
Okay, okay, great, sir. So there's one more team which over to you, sir. The
So
financial market.
again, yeah, so financial market group is basically the sales team. So what this is different from the other sales teams I told. The FX sales team is that goes and meets the client. So what financial market group does is basically it goes and interacts with the other institutions. It doesn't go and meet with the goes and meet with the client. It goes and meets the other institution. Say smaller banks which don't have a setup, which don't have a GSEC setup, or which don't have a FX setup. So I go and this group basically goes, so this group sits in the treasury dealing room itself majorly, and this group goes and interacts with all the institutions, all the other banks, say the cooperative banks, and develops relationship, and as written, it handles all those. So again, when so these are basically you call relationship managers for the treasury with other treasuries. Simple as it, in simple language.
Okay, okay, great. Thank you very much, sir. Let's move on to the part which the audience might be very keen on. That's the compensation and the hierarchy. I'll just need a very brief overview from your perspective, sir.
Okay, fine. You see, so basically, you see, treasury, as I told you, is one of the niche area. Uh, I believe nearly everybody who has some or other knowledge of financial markets wants to enter into treasury. But majorly, the thing is, since lot of money is involved from the bank, a lot of stake from lot of huge chunk of money is handled by few banks, a few guys sitting in the dealing room. Management has a clear overview, has a clear daily tab on what's happening in the dealing room. And since money is being deployed, huge money is being deployed, and since huge risk is being taken, and since revenue is being generated, which is visible, upfront is visible. Say if I'm doing a prop trading, I'm showing money upfront. Whereas say if you are sitting in the other side, say as I told you, if you're an analyst, say you are, it's basically qualitative stuff, right? So over a 1 year down the line, मैंने इतना call दिया, मेरा view ये चला गया, then management decides, okay, you are a good guy, you will be rewarded. But here it's nothing like that. Both, since there is a huge risk is there and huge reward is there, and since it's a major profit center for the bank, usually treasuries across, irrespective, other than public sector banks, where you see across grades, same sort of compensation being given, there will be a 10 to 20% upside to all other than all other roles which are done in treasury. Okay, so as it's written there, more or less, this is I'm talking about the decent sized private sector banks. So depending on the roles which you handle, uh, depending on the year of experience, depending on how you are come, say if you're coming from a B school directly, maybe you will start say from a 20 plus package. Say if you're having a, if you're demonstrated, yes, I am making money, I have got a 5 years experience, and I've been able to generate this much revenue from a prop side. Maybe you will be able to get more than say 40-50 package. So it's nothing which is matlab, hit on, uh, written on the stone. You know, this is the one. It's hugely fungible, and usually, so from whatever is written here, maybe you may see 20 to 30% upside and downside may be there in the private sector banks. From the foreign bank perspective, obviously things are entirely different. So it may be ranging from say maybe 3x or even 4x of the whatever figures you are seeing here. But obviously their setup are opportunities are very less, because they're from a just from a bank, even so bank treasuries are very limited. So there are hardly banks involved, and even in banks, the guys who are sitting in dealing room are very less. So and from foreign banks also have a very less setup. So they don't need 10-15 traders. They need only one trader who generates an X revenue from the bank, and they are ready to give an exorbitant, if I tell, but they are able to give a decent, more than decent bonuses and packages. So obviously, usually, say if you have a B school tag, and if you're lucky enough, to get into foreign bank, so that's in a different league. Here, say if you want to enter into private sector, obviously PSU has got an entirely different way to get in. There are some lateral recruitment happening. So if you're interested in moving into PSU setup, that is also there. But if you're talking about just private bank setup, so if you have say how you get into a private bank setup, obviously there are two ways. One, you have an experience. Say in another setup, you show your experience, you show say if you're in a PD, if you're able to demonstrate something, or if you're working with a smaller bank and if you're able to demonstrate something. So if you have that core experience, and if you're able to demonstrate, say if you have this CFA FRM where you know ki theoretically I'm very strong, and I'm able to apply also, then you get an entry into this. Then you come from grade by grade, all over a period of years. From a say for growth perspective, from I believe ki, see, I've been here for 9 years and I got one promotion over the last 9 years. So I joined an X grade, and so for 5 years before I got one promotion, I'm due for another promotion also. So it's, but my role is same. So if you're in a treasury, it is not that as you are promoted, your role changes. No. So it could be that you are in the same role for a larger period, because treasury banks need guys who have got experience, because they have invested large portion. That have, experience matters a lot in treasury. So obviously they need guys. So you may be promoted, but you may be asked to sit on the same desk. But again, it depends on the management. If they feel that you are fungible, you can do. If even if you are interested, yes, I came and I did FX trading for this month. I need to say both हो गया भाई. I need to study macros. मुझे position लेके बैठना है. I need to go on interest rate desk. You can always move to the interest rate desk side also. From an entry perspective, if you're looking at the carrier side, obviously there's huge demand is there. Why? Because there are few private sector banks. PSU sector don't offers a very huge salary. It's not that lucrative, I agree. And on the upside, foreign banks, usually you need to have a B tag. Plus, in spite of being B tag, you need to be among the top in those areas to enter. It's not that just B set. Guys who have got B degrees go into this, nothing like that, B school degrees. It is guys who have worked in private sector banks also go into the foreign bank. So ABC, either you have an, yes, I got an degrees which can push me in, or either I have demonstrated in the market, yes, I have done this, I can do more better if those guys move into the foreign banks. So if you want to move into the private banks per se, one, obviously these are the major requirements. You need to have a CFA, FRM, which demonstrates, yes, you have a very strong theoretical background. Plus CFA, FRM doesn't come just with a theoretical background. You need to have some sort of experience related to treasury, related to financial markets, which again is a very, very good add-on. So if you have got a 4 years, 5 years experience in all those stuff, you can always has a decent chance you can move into a bank. But again, since very few banks are there, so if I count, so 10, 15 banks, 20 banks are there. Among these 20 banks also, so even if to max from the trading side, hardly so the population size is very less. But again, if depending on your skill set, depending on your what you want to do, how you want to see your career, you can do trading, you can do analysis, or if you want to do sales, you are good at networking, you can always go and do sales. That is also huge. So when I talk about all this compensation for treasury, more or less, even if you're doing a trading, if you're handling the flow desk, or even if you're doing the sales part, more or less compensations will be fit into all those stuff. It's nothing key. If you are doing sales, you'll get a hugely lower, and if you're doing a trading, you'll get a hugely higher. There are differences here and there depending on the bank setup, but more or less, this will be the compensation part.
Okay.
Hierarchy again, it depends on the banks to banks. So there may be, so there are many layers now in between also, but these are majorly this stuff.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, sir. So with respect to the skill set, which the audience might be able to relate now. So for example, we have given some pointers. So can you please help us with those, sir?
So again, as I told you, depending on the role you want to play, depending where you want to see yourself in the treasury, you would have, and see, basically these are the generic one which you need. Analytical skill is very much required. Obviously, things are moving very fast now. Other than things, maybe you need to have more programming knowledge, also need to have modeling stuff and all. So that is there. Your decisions making need to be fast. You need to have a clear understanding of fundas. It's nothing ki, I have a vague idea, and say if you have a vague idea of X, tomorrow the X might change very drastically. So you need to be adaptive also. You need to make in that change scenario also. You need to take a decision fast also. So it's nothing ki, it's not just ki, you have a set process. In that set process, you've got a clear understanding, and tomorrow the set process is done, and depending on that set process, I took a decision. No, it's not like that. So that set process will also change, the dynamics will also change, and depending fast, and along with the fastness it will be in a stressful scenario. So when you need to take a strong decision, say if I'm sitting at a loss, I need to cut my position. You need to take a call very fast. Okay, I took a call on this macro, it's not working, I need to cut my position. Plus if there's a consistent downside is there, uh, obviously it's a stressful thing. Say if you're on a flow dust, you have to be continuously linked to the market. You need to understand all and every events which are happening. Say, daily there will be updates in the market. You need to upgrade yourself. Daily things are happening. Daily Trump will tweet something. Daily Sitaraman will come and tell something. Daily data are there. Daily Matlab, there are so many stuff you need to add on to the stuff. Plus, you need to correlate with what happened 6 months down the line, 1 year down the line, and you need to have a clear picture in the mind कि this is the trajectory is happening. Plus, you need to project yourself कि हाँ ये trajectory अभी है कि आगे 6 महीने में क्या होगा, साल भर में क्या होगा. Obviously, here, so all these things mingle among themselves. You have an analytical skill. You have to take a decision parts to execute, and obviously, it's nothing. You need to have stressful. Maybe there are times when you need to get up midnight, 12 o'clock. You have a portion. Many times are there when you get as a trader, you get up at the midnight and see what's happening in US markets. So this on all will be there. मतलब आपको नींद और चैन उड़ाना है. But again, there's an upside is there. Huge upside is there. There's a clear recognition in the market if you're in the treasury, and obviously you are well paid in comparing to other groups.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Some of the technical skills, sir.
So as I told CFA FRM, it's I think it's a must and must FRM because you need to have a clear understanding of what risks are there in future. Say from my money market side, it helps a lot. CFA obviously you need to have a clear understanding of balance sheet analysis, modeling. So all the stuff are very much closely interrelated. Financial products, all those get involved. And so from a future perspective, if you are looking at things are changing very drastically, even from our trading side also. As your equity markets already been overtaken by algo traders and all. Execution are happening using algos. So same modeling and coding, modeling and coding both will be a key requirement as you move into the future. You need to have modeling. I think it's more or less everybody now is you guys have clear cut understanding modeling, but coding again because the way things are happening. So when machines are able to take fast decisions, when a guy sitting in another bank is able to take fast decisions because he has got a coding knowledge, you need to have this stuff also. If you are interested in going with the trading role majorly, and if you're looking to trade on the other side, modeling is required. Obviously, modeling is now become a major skill. And obviously, chart trading is there, which helps you a lot. So it's nothing like you need to have a CMT only, then only you have an upper end, nothing like that. Charts, anybody can have a look, anybody can understand charts. It's widely, the knowledge is widely available everywhere. But over a period of time, as you trade, as you look at the charts, you will understand. So that also comes with an experience, you will gain experience. But yes, charts is one of the key skills that if you're looking per se to enter into the major into the trading side. So basically, as I conveyed again and again, so you need to have a clear analysis of finances. There is no second thought on that. Or entering into a bank where huge money is involved. So clearly, you need to have a clear understanding of finances, different products which are required in finances. Obviously, you need not have a clear understanding what is SB, what is current account. Okay, you need not have your general knowledge, but say if you are looking to if you want to sit in the corporate bond, you need to have a clear understanding of credit. How bank is giving credit, how is credit involved. So when you will have a clear understanding of credit, obviously when you have a clear understanding of the balance sheets, P&L, modeling, how the trajectory of the business. So all those stuff. So financial analysis is there from a micro level, from individual, or from if you're looking at a macro level, from the say what's going to happen in India, because treasury, banks, all these are interrelated. What's happening in India, you have a clear understanding of the markets, of the macros. Same for the wherever major economies are there, all these you need to have a clear understanding. But yes, if you are looking at the interest rate part, India se kaam ho jayega. Absolutely, US se chalo. But if you are in the FX part, obviously you need to have a more larger domain, larger experience. Again, when you talk about techno-functional role, as I told, things are evolving very fastly. It's as I was discussing with Ganesh yesterday, nobody knew okay, online is going to be, matlab, Ganesh and I will be sitting and having a webinar. No, I never thought, right? So things are, so same stuff is happening. Maybe down the line, it may not be the entire execution, client covering, everything will happen through even prop trading. Maybe it could be because equity is already overtaken by Algo. Could be tomorrow, down the line, even FX may also get involved. Yes, I need to have major chunk of my trading happening through Algo. Just for information, foreign banks largely major chunk of the FX business, major chunk of our prop trading has already moved into Algo's. Decision making is very fast because then you remove the as you heard, learned, you are removing the emotional part. So that is one of the core areas. So basically, modeling you need to have a clear idea, coding you need to have a clear idea, and lastly, if you are into treasury, it is a stressful job. Yes, it's a stressful job, but you need to have a counterbalance of stress. You need to have a clear, and maybe there are different ways where you can handle those stuff. You can obviously you can go out and have parties, but that's not advisable. You need to exercise, you need to have meditation. So all the stuff are there. But yes, it is a stressful job because daily in and out you're handling money, and money is like it just vanishes in thin air. So when it vanishes in thin air, your career may also go off in the thin air. So yes, it is a stressful job, but again I will tell you it's a very exciting area. Uh, Plus it's very lucrative area. And even if you're looking to grow career perspective part, I think this is the best step. I think I crossed by 13, 14 minutes. Thanks
No
for
problem,
bearing
no
with me.
problem, sir. So one small question from the audience side. So if somebody is a CA and from the internal audit background, so is there a good chance
Okay.
of he or she moving to the treasury backend role?
And yeah, so sorry, I was just talking about B-schools only. Okay, so I talked about front office only, sorry, majorly. So there's an entire same setup which is there in the back office
Back
also,
office. Yeah.
which is known as the treasury operations. So there, basically, other than settlement happening, major chunk happens is valuations. So obviously, when you talk about valuations happening, you need to have a clear analytical skill. So okay, वहाँ पर आपको इतना stress नहीं होगा, but if you're good in analysis, if you're good in analyticals, so say guys like if you're a CA, obviously CA are there in the in front office also, but if you're a CA, obviously it helps you a lot in treasury operations also, and there is an equally small setup called the mid office where the risk team sits, where your FRM will be very much useful. So basically treasury is front office, which uh, obviously the more charming part. Then you have the back office and the mid office. So three
Right.
setup usually are called a treasury. But yes, if you're a CA, there's a huge demand for CA in the treasury or back office operations part. Yes, then if you want to move into the front office part also, there are recruitments happening. CAs are
Okay.
there. But again, it depends on skill set. See, we have a team guys who are CAs or who are doing sales. So it all depends. If you are, it all depends on a personality, and they're doing good sales. So because it's an added element, because you know finances, you know behavioral science, you are able to understand people. That's another
Right.
add-on.
So from the career perspective, I've just summarized the skill set part. So obviously having a big B school tag will definitely be helpful. But apart from those, that
So helpful for the guys who want to work in foreign banks.
okay.
So
And
that's always helpful. Everybody knows.
yeah, definitely, sir. And apart from those, so there's also CA that people do, and they can also enter into treasury side. There can be people who have done CFA or FRM or such kind of certification, which is valued by the bank, is also being taken into consideration when you want to move. And not only from the front end side, but also the back end or the middle office side also. And from the technical, from the skill set perspective, apart from these certifications, you can also look for these. Technical side, modeling or coding side primarily, or a financial product knowledge will also be very helpful, and your interpersonal skill set will definitely go a long way. That's what you said, right? So I tried to summarize it, and so kind of more or less the questions that we have received, we have tried to answer it. We have already breached the timeline, and I would like to summarize this entire thing by thanking you, sir. Really, it was really helpful because a lot of these time these students or people who are new to finance are not well aware about what exactly is happening in the treasury domain. Okay, because you will not find much of the discussions happening outside. So thank you for taking out your time and energy and giving us the guidance and the understanding about the entire domain, and we are really really thankful for that. And we look forward to have you in future sessions also, wherein we can have a discussion on a different topic altogether. And thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Ganesh. It was a great opportunity. Thank you. I did give my Guru Dakshina.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your time. And I hope you guys had a good time understanding the treasury side. And will be keep on having sessions in future also. So stay tuned for the information. Okay. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you very much, sir.